Look at this. It says the city is burned, the wives and the children are taken captive. I mean, they lifted up their voices. How many of you have ever lost your home, your wife, your children have been carried off? Anyone in this room? Probably not. I've been in countries where the Christians I'm sitting with have lived this. First time I went into East Africa, I remember coming into this one little village, and people were like really nervous. The grass was high. People were really nervous. And I said, what's wrong? Why is everyone so tense? And they go, the grass is high. Go cut it. Why is that scary? Because there was on this porous border, there were these guerrillas, and they would go into these villages and they would kill all the men in the villages. They'd take all the little boys and they would have them kill one of their relatives and others, turn them into boy soldiers, give them drugs, girls, all those sorts of things, carry off the young ladies. They had experienced this. And when the grass was high, they don't know when they're coming. They could sneak up on them. They would have these attacks. And I'm telling you, this has happened all through history. I want you to think about this, burning the city with fire. The loss of everything. Now, in Americans, we have fires. And out west, I was pastoring out in this one community, and we had a fire come through, and it burned eight homes. And one of the families in our church owned one of the 8 homes, and the families that had been evacuated and lost their homes were all taken to the community center. And Ben and Dottie Coleman, the folks from our church, they were going around and ministering to those other 7 families in Jesus' name. And you know what we did? We went to Walmart and we got them new toothbrushes. And we got them, clothes and things like that. There wasn't any place to go and get new supplies. There wasn't anything. I mean, what they had is what they had carried up 6 days earlier. They'd come back with those things. And now they're sitting there, everything is gone, and the most precious thing they have, their wives and their children, they are taken as slaves. This is a bad day, right? How many of you remember your grandma or your mom saying to you, eat all your vegetables? There's someone that would just love to eat those vegetables. How many of you had this lecture, right? And it's true, friends, it's true. Count your blessings. We are so blessed with safety and security at a level that is incomprehensible in world history. And it's true to this day, friends. It's true to this day. I don't know about you. I feel the tension increasing in America as even elected officials are more and more saying, Christians are the problem in America. That's the reason. And we're feeling that really for the first time from a government level. Individuals, yeah, we've had that in the past, and I've been hated and called all kinds of things. But now from a more government standpoint, the weaponizing, friends, this is scary stuff. But I want you to know, whatever happens here, just know that Christians have always faced insane things. God's people have gone through difficulties in the past, and the God that got them through is the God that's going to get you through. This last week, I was thinking about the persecuted church and praying for the persecuted church. And I just want to show you a video clip of the 10 most difficult places in the world to live. And I want you to think about like our preaching team, and I want you to think about how we are embedded specifically and intentionally in these locations. Watch this.
There are countries where Christians live in fear, where churches are bombed and houses burned, where following Jesus means sacrificing jobs, security, family. There are countries where you must keep your faith secret, or it might get you killed. These are the countries of the Open Doors World Watch list, and here are the 10 countries where following Jesus costs the most. Number 10. India. Many extremists claim that to be Indian is to be Hindu. They want an India without religious minorities, and they are using violence to achieve it. Number 9. Iran. Iranian Christians must meet secretly. Being discovered could mean long sentences in appalling prisons. Number 8. Pakistan. Christians in Pakistan are considered second-class citizens. Innocent believers are falsely accused of blasphemy. Thousands of women are victims of kidnap and forced conversion. Number 7, Nigeria. Nigeria is the country where Christians face the most outright violence. Many Christians have been killed or driven from their homes. Number 6, Eritrea. More than 1,000 Christians are imprisoned for their faith in Eritrea. Some pastors have been locked up for over a decade without charge. Number 5, Yemen. Yemeni culture is tribal. Those who leave the tribal faith could be banished or even killed. Number 4, Libya. In this lawless land, Libyan Christians have to keep their faith secret or risk punishment, arrest, or death. Number 3, Somalia. Islamist extremists consider Somali Christians high-value targets, so the tiny population of only a few hundred secret believers keep out of sight. Number 2, North Korea. There are around 400,000 Christians in North Korea. All of them must hide their faith. Discovery means exile, execution, or being worked to death in horrific labor camps. Number 1, Afghanistan. The Taliban takeover means that Afghanistan is the new number 1, the most dangerous place in the world to be a Christian. Many Christians have become refugees. Those who remain must keep their faith utterly secret.
Wow, when I was watching that this week, I was taken back. Because 9/11 is the 1-year anniversary of the U.S. pulling out of Afghanistan. And you remember we left $80 billion worth of military assets there. Now, this may be B-roll, but it's very interesting when you watch that video. They're showing off American military assets that they're using to kill Christians today. And that's true. This may be B-roll, but that's true. Listen, if you think it's bad, you just better get on your knees and count your blessings. Turn to someone, count your blessings. Shout it out online. I want you to catch the second thing with me, and that is found in verse 6. Don't destroy God's gift. Listen, when you and I go through difficulties, there's a propensity within us to lash out and to take it out on others. Like, how many of you ever had like a really bad day and you came home, you've heard about, I came home and I kicked the dog, or I came home and kicked the cat? Usually we don't do that though. Usually we come home after difficult moments and then we attack other people within our own homes. Isn't that true? And what's amazing is we attack people in our own homes and we step back outside and all of a sudden we're nice to other people out there. And the very assets that God gives us in our own home are the people that we end up hurting the most of the time. And look at this crazy, insane sentence here. It says, moreover, David was greatly distressed. One, he's lost his city and all of his assets and all the implications of that. And you got to understand, losing your assets, unless you live in America, that means you're going to starve to death. There may not be a future. How many days do you live without food? And especially in this world, because everything here is about fighting and survival. I mean, this is massive. But he's lost his wife. His 2 wives as well have been taken as slaves. And it's not going to go well for them, right? You understand what I mean? It's not going to go well for them. And so David is greatly distressed like his men. So he's carrying that, his own personal loss, but he's greatly distressed because his men on top of that are trying to kill him. And they're like, David did all of this. David's the reason we're in this mess. Hold it. This guy's done you nothing but good. Why are you attacking and trying to kill him? Notice it says right here, here's the secret, they were embittered. Angry people who then start to stir on that become embittered, and those embittered people kill the very asset that God has given them. I mean, they're angry and their phones are blowing up. I just can't believe this is happening. Social media is all about hanging David, stoning David. Friends, can I just say this like as bluntly as I can? Human history is filled with people living in difficult circumstances and then killing the very assets or trying to destroy the very assets, the very blessings that God has given to them. David was the greatest blessing that God had given to them. So much so that in the verses to follow, he's going to be the one that gets all the wives back and all the kids back and all that was taken and more because these guys had plundered, so much. they're going to get all of that. They're going to get all of that back. They needed David more than David needed them. It was an asset from God. I'm just always taken back by this passage because David felt the loneliness. Here's a lesson in leadership, and it's this. Leadership is lonely at times. And it's really lonely for guys like David. It's really lonely for Abraham. It's going to be really lonely for Abigail. It's going to be really lonely for people as they go down through. And the question is, in this loneliness and in this distress, where do you turn? Well, don't play games with the devil. Instead, do what David did. Because in verse 6, what does he do? He pursues God. He draws near to God. He finds strength for the moment in the Lord. Moreover, David was greatly distressed because the men were going to stone him. Verse 6, but David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. Now, I want you to notice he assumes responsibility for his spiritual condition. Look at me. Stop pointing your finger at other people and using them to rationalize your spiritually weak soul. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is so important, beloved. You and I have to assume responsibility for our spiritual well-being. Don't be blame shifting. Don't be putting it on others. Well, the devil made me do it. Well, if I just had a different spouse, if I just had better kids, if I just had a better job, if I just lived in a better country, if I just lived someplace, if it was just better, then I would be. No, your problem is you. Remember a couple weeks ago we saw where the Apostle Paul says, I buffet my body daily, making it my slave, lest having preached to others, I myself should become a castaway. And what I want you to see in this passage is when David was younger and when he was isolated and in trouble, you remember he had a really good friend. His name is Jonathan, the son of King Saul. And it says Jonathan would come and he would strengthen him in the Lord and strengthen him in the Lord. Multiple times that happened in the past. The problem is Jonathan is up literally going to die within a few hours, 3 days march from him. And so he turns to the Lord and he's seeking the Lord. He's getting strength from the Lord. Friends, you and I in the difficulties of life are going to have to get strength from God. That's why this passage is so important. That's why you need to know this story. What did David do in his distress? What will you do in your distress? Strengthen yourself in the Lord.